there booktube, it's Eleanor here, and today I want to talk to you about some of the things that I was really enjoying in February. If you saw my last video, you'll know that I'm not doing my sort of standard wrap up anymore. I think at the beginning of this, no, at the end, I will list all the books I read and their star ratings, but I really just want to talk to you about the books that I really enjoyed this month, my sort of tops, and also I want to talk to you about some games and films and TV shows that I've enjoyed as well. So we'll start with the books that I really loved, and actually there's a really nice selection. I've picked 4. There is a fantasy, there is a sort of general fiction, and there is 2 romances, so quite a nice selection there. Okay, so let's start with a romance I really enjoyed, and that was Rafe by Rebecca Witherspoon. I knew going into this that this was going to be involving a manny, so a man that is a nanny, and that's a really interesting concept. It's not one that I've seen played out in books before, not a plot point I've seen very often. And what I really appreciated about this book is that it didn't hammer it home and make it into a big deal. Yes, our main character that is hiring the manny was like, oh, I hadn't really considered a man before, but it's not like hammered home, oh, it's a man, oh, it's a man. So I thought that was really nice. It didn't become a big thing. I also loved that our main female character was a really strong, intelligent black woman who knew what she was about. She spoke her mind, and she had some really grown-up, frank conversations, and she didn't shy away from those. I just think that was one of the really main positives about this book, is that both characters had really grown-up conversations. They were really mature, their lines of communication were open, and I just thought that was really lovely to see. It didn't make the book any less interesting. You might think the lack of conflict in that way might make the book less fun to read, but it wasn't at all. In fact, it made it more interesting to read. It was great. It's basically about our main character. She has 2 children. She has twins, and she needs a nanny. Her nanny has just disappeared and left the kids at home, and she is a surgeon. She is very young and she is on her own, and so she needs someone to come in and look after the girls. She finds this manny. He's sort of in a break between jobs. He agrees to do the job, but there is this sort of instant attraction, and rather than skirting around it and it becoming a bit taboo, he is very upfront with her quite early on, saying, I'm attracted to you, and if you think that's going to be a problem, then we shouldn't work together. And they work through these issues of how they're feeling. They decide whether they're going to start a relationship, how they're going to do it, the best way to do things for the girls, how everything's going to work, and they have these conversations. And I can tell you now, it was as steamy as hell, and really, I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was very refreshing to see 2 grown-up characters behaving like grown-ups, and I gave that one 4 stars. The next book that I really enjoyed this month was Law, which is by Alexandra Bracken. I was nervous going into this because I haven't really enjoyed Alexandra Bracken's other work, but this was sort of a pleasant surprise. I buddy read it with Tracy, and yeah, I was worried that mainly that I wasn't going to get to grips with what was going on. Sometimes in big fantasy books, I just can't really work out the story, especially where it's one where it's not show, you know, where it takes a while and you're sort of immersed in the world and you just have to sort of pick it up as you go along. There's not big info dumps. And I managed with this one. I think I've really discovered that these sort of books are better read in bigger chunks. I'm sorry for the noise outside. We've got building work happening, so I apologise for the rumbling going on, but it can't be helped. And so this one's set in New York, and we meet our main character Law, and we know that she is a fighter. At the beginning of the story, she's sort of cage fighting for money, and we very soon discover that she is she was part of a family that was part of a long tradition of this sort of games that happen every 7 years, where they fight the gods to try and kill the gods, and whoever kills a god manages to take on their abilities. And these families are at war and rivals and often kill each other. and she has been out of the game since her family got brutally killed. She is the last in the line for her sort of bloodline and for her house, and she is not interested. She has been hiding herself away to keep away from it all, but she is sort of thrust back into the mix when a god turns up on her doorstep injured. I won't say any more than that because I don't want to spoil it, but it was good. So we follow her as this new tournament is about to start, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the pacing, I enjoyed the writing, I enjoyed how the story unravelled. I enjoyed that there was a part in this where I was completely shocked, which doesn't happen very often. Often I can work out the twist, there's sort of more hints, but this time it was quite a shock and I really enjoyed that. So yeah, it was a really enjoyable fantasy read and I gave that one 4 stars. Another book I really enjoyed in the romance category was Brittany C. Cherry's Behind the Bars. This had such a strong beginning in terms of its emotional impact on me. It's about a young boy and a young girl, and they meet each other and at school. The boy is picked on a lot. He's a bit weedy, and something has happened which has caused a lot of the boys at school to pick on him, but he is an incredibly talented saxophonist and can be found on the sort of corner of this place in New Orleans playing his saxophone. Our main character, female, has never been allowed to go to school. Her mother is obsessed with making her a pop star and has homeschooled her, and she's begged to be sent to school for a year to finish off her schooling. She's desperate to go to a mainstream school and try it out, and this is how she meets the boy. And it's about this sort of relationship that very quickly comes together between the two of them, and then she disappears. Her mother drags her off and disappears with her, and it's about then something that happens in this boy's life. They lose contact, and years later she comes back to the area, moves back to the area, and it's about them finding themselves again and finding each other, and this sort of love really, and love breaking down certain barriers. I really found this very powerful. It was a big shock what happened part way through to the boy, and I found that quite intense, and it really worked, I think, as a plot device. And yeah, I thought this was really strong and really impactful, and I really enjoyed it, so I ended up giving this one 4 stars as well. Okay, and the final book that I want to talk about is Black Dog Summer by Miranda Sherry. Now, I read Bone Meal for Roses by this author and gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was brilliant. It was one of the first books I'd ever read set in South Africa. I loved the story writing. I loved everything about that book, and so I wanted to read the book that she'd written before, which is called Black Dog Summer, and I just hadn't picked it up for ages, and recently I just like, no, I'm gonna pick that one up finally. I really love the imagery and the writing style that Miranda Sherry has. I just think it's really beautiful and lovely to read. I love that this is set again in South Africa, and this was very reminiscent to me of the idea of the Lovely Bones. We have a main character who is a ghost who has been murdered. We see her murder happen at the beginning, although not like Lovely Bones, which it's a young girl. This is an adult woman, and we see her following the thread. She has a daughter, and that daughter has ended up being placed with her sister and her sister's family, which is her sister and her husband and the 2 children. And so she can see these threads into each of these people's lives, and we follow her as she follows each of them at different points, and it sort of flits between all of them, and it's really powerful, and it's not jarring at all. You'd expect maybe because you're going through so many different people's eyes that it might become disjointed, but it's not. It really has this effortless flow to it. So I really liked how the tension built up in this story, how we were following the effects on each of the family members of this death, and how they work through it to this sort of climax, which comes at the end where we have this sort of breakthrough. I wish I'd liked more of the characters individually. I didn't really like many of them so much, but I definitely felt that they felt like realised characters. They were all flawed in different ways, and that's normal. You know, it's normal to have flawed characters. So they definitely had redeeming features, and I really loved reading it, so I ended up giving this one 4 stars too, which is really high praise for me because I can't remember the last time I gave it 5 stars. I certainly haven't done it this year yet, so yeah, there were some really good books there. Okay, so I wanted to talk briefly about some board games this time. I have joined a subscription service for board games to try out some new ones, and I got 2 new ones this month and really enjoyed them and ended up buying them for myself. The first one is called Ganz Clever. That's pretty clever, and it's a dice game, and you can play this solo or you can play this with other people. I really love it. It's just a case of throwing different dice, using them to mark off different things on sheets, and there's different sections on the sheet for you to fill out, and then at the end you sort of add up all of your dice. It's a bit reminiscent of Yahtzee, but there's a little bit more involved in it, and I just thought it was really good fun, and I've really been enjoying playing this solo. And then the other game that I played that I've really loved is Friday, a solo adventure, and this is a card game, but it's so good and so addictive. I've spent hours and hours and hours playing this, and I've only won once. It's really hard to win, but it's really worth it, and it's really enjoyable, and I've just really loved it. So I've really enjoyed that. Myself and Tracy have just started playing Chronicles of Crime, which is sort of a police detective board game, and I've been enjoying it so much that I've picked up the different expansion packs for this one. And basically that is you're a detective, and there's an app, and you can scan different people, and you go around the case trying to work out. So you have to go to different locations, and you have to speak to different people like detectives and criminologists, and I'm not explaining it very well, but it's really good fun. And then the battery died, so it's now maybe 3 days later, and I finally got round to filming this. Things just been hectic with Matilda going back to school, but I wanted to talk about one more game that I've been playing solo because I absolutely loved it. When Matilda went back to school, I'm not starting until the summer because I've got to wait till shielding finishes, and so I'm at a bit of a loose end on days when it's rainy. When it's dry and it's sunny, I'm taking the dog for longer walks and enjoying being outside. But a couple of days ago I just didn't have much time to do that. The weather was rubbish. I just wanted to sit down and play a game, and I wanted to do quite a long one. So I picked up this. It's called Cantaloupe, and this is book 1. There's going to be more than one book, and if you were a fan of point and click adventures on your PC or computer when you were younger, things like Monkey Island, I think there was the Broken Sword, the Grim Fandango. I was obsessed with these as I was younger, where you walk around, you talk to people, there's a mystery to solve, you have to combine items, and you have to try and sort of do something. There's some sort of mystery you're trying to do. Well, in this one, the company have managed to create that idea, this point and click adventure idea, but through a book. So I don't want to show you too many pages because I don't want to spoil it, but when you open up the pack, you have this on the inside, and these are your cards that you're going to use throughout, and then in here you've got some other bits and bobs. And then I'll just show you the first scenario. So the first page is like this. So you've got the sort of picture that you're looking at with the numbers that you can look up with your magnifying glass, and then on this side you've got the things you're reading, but it's all completely blurry, and you're unable to read it until you put this piece of red, let me see if I can find it, here we are, this piece of red like perspex-y plastic over the top, and then you can read the information. So you're going around, you are a con artist, and you are gathering together a crew to try and steal something from someone. So you need, let me just shut these and see if you can see me a bit better. Oh look, that's better. So you need a crew. So you've got two objectives. You need to break this guy out of jail, and you need to get yourself a beautiful woman who's not well known or got like a rap sheet. And so that's the mission that you're on during this book. It was so much fun. It really did take me back to the point and click days. I really liked the mechanics of how the whole thing worked. This was right up my street, and I think the second book is coming out this year at some point, so I'm definitely trying to find out when I can get that. And I just hope that people bring out more of these type of things, because I absolutely loved it. If you are into board games and you can recommend me any good solo player games that aren't too hardcore, and B, if you've got any other recommendations of board games that are done like point and clicks, I am all for it. So let me know in the comments down below. So I've absolutely loved that. And then the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is one that I've picked up to give a go, which is called Deck-tective: The Gaze of the Ghost. This is apparently just takes an hour to play, but you don't ruin the deck like you do in some sort of escape room type games. So it could be one that I could pass on. I think it's a one shot, so you only get to play it once, because otherwise it will have spoilt for you. But the idea of this is that it's sort of a pocket crime thing. You've got to solve this crime. So you're reading through the cards, and you're reading through the different people's perspectives, and then you have to sort of make your guess at the end of who did it or whatever. So the back says, The Gaze of the Ghost is an investigation game for a group of friends, but also playable solo. The keeper of a dilapidated museum witnesses a series of alleged paranormal activities that ended up with the vanishing of his colleague under mysterious circumstances. Is the museum haunted by a ghost? Can you explain what just happened? Collect the clues, mysterious noises, antique artworks, a portrait following your movement with its eyes. Can you put the evidence together to solve the mystery? So I just think that sounds really fun. It says it's for 12 to 99-year-olds, and it takes about an hour. There's two in this series. This is the second. I've ordered the other one as well because I want to give them both a go. So I'm looking forward to seeing how I get on with this. It's going to be a shorter one, but quite good for while I'm stuck at home. So yeah, that's some things that I've really enjoyed, both books and games this month. Let me know if you can give me any recommendations of solo player board games, especially along the lines of the ones that I've mentioned. And yeah, I'm looking forward to speaking to you soon and catching you up on what I've been doing in March. I will scroll through now all of the books that I read this month and their star ratings. So let's do that. 2-star books: When You Are Mine, Queen Move, Hammerhead. 3-star books: Pretending He's Mine, The Riverdale Diaries. And 4-star reads: A Flame in the Mist, Happily Ever Afters, Love Unsolicited, Higher Love, Rafe, Law, Take a Hint Danny Brown, Happiness Jersey, Behind the Bars, Black Dog Summer, I Love You So Mochi, Awkward, Brave, and Crush. Okay, so that's it from me, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.